Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. I'm Eric, 34, and I've been married to Marissa for 17 years. We've got a daughter Zara, she's 16. I work as an electrical contractor, mostly big industrial sites. Dangerous stuff, high voltage systems that could fry you in a heartbeat if you're not careful. But the pay's good. Good enough that we had a solid house in a nice neighborhood. Not luxury, but earned. Every nail, every screw, paid for with calloused hands and long shifts. That day, I was at a site about 30 minutes from home. It was sweltering, sweat pouring down my back as I wrangled a set of heavy-duty circuit breakers into place. Most of the crew was on lunch break, but I stayed back, trying to finish wiring one last panel so we could run the test right after. I was in the zone, hands deep in the guts of the system when my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was Derek, my neighbor. Now, Derek and I are cool. We'll have a coffee sometimes, catch a game if we're both around. But we don't call each other not during work hours. Not ever. I answered instantly. Yo, what's up? Eric, dude, you need to get home. Right now. There was a panic in his voice I'd never heard before. My stomach dropped like I missed a step on a staircase. What's happening? Is there a fire? Is Zara okay? There's a U-Haul truck in front of your house, man. Like, a big one. 3 guys are loading furniture into it. Your wife's there, supervising. What? What are you talking about? I thought maybe you guys were moving and just didn't mention it, but it fell off. She's got a clipboard, man. They already loaded your leather couch, the huge TV from the living room, and a bunch of other stuff. She doesn't look upset. She's just ticking things off a list. My brain stopped working for a second. Just full-on blue screen. Static. You're serious right now? Dead serious, bro. I wouldn't call you if it wasn't. I didn't even respond. I was already ripping off my work gloves, dirt and sweat sticking to my palms. I grabbed my hard hat, tossed it onto a spool of cable, and sprinted across the site toward my supervisor. Emergency at home, I told him. Possible robbery. I need to go. He looked at me, then nodded. I must have looked like I'd seen a ghost. I drove like a maniac, ran every red light, pushed the speedometer past 90, heart hammering against my ribs the whole time. My mind went places I didn't want it to go. Was it a robbery? Was Marissa being forced to help them? Or God had she snapped? Decided to just bail on everything? Nothing added up. Not a single thing. When I turned the corner into our neighborhood, I could see it from down the block, the U-Haul. A massive 26-footer, parked like a damn sore thumb, its front wheels half on our lawn. And there she was, Marissa, wearing yoga pants and a tank top, hair tied back, standing at the edge of the driveway. Not crying. Not distressed. Calm. Holding a clipboard. Some guys, 3 of them total strangers to me, were hauling our furniture out of our house. But what really got me seeing red, what made everything inside me snap, was this tall guy standing on my lawn like he owned the place. Designer sunglasses, a tight polo shirt, expensive haircut. And he was pointing at my stuff, directing the movers like he had some damn right to be there. Standing on my property, giving orders about my belongings. I slammed the brakes so hard the truck jolted, threw it in park without even bothering to close the door. I was out before the engine finished rattling down. Every step toward that prick felt like fire in my veins. I stormed right up to him, heat pulsing behind my eyes. What the hell do you think you're doing? I barked, getting right in his face. He didn't flinch, didn't even look surprised. He just gave me this annoyed little side glance, like I was a leaf blower interrupting his brunch. Mind your business, dude. That was it. I don't even remember telling my body to move. My fist flew like it had a will of its own. The impact was solid, satisfying in a way I hate to admit. It hit his jaw with a crack that traveled all the way up through my arm, right into my shoulder. He dropped, just crumpled like a cheap folding chair. His fancy sunglasses went flying, and I could already see a thin line of blood forming on his lip. But I wasn't done. I was on him in a flash, knees to the concrete, fists flying, vision red. Blind fury. 17 years of marriage. 17. Breaking my back, doing 60-hour weeks. Never once cheated. Never even looked at another woman. And here's this piece of garbage, in broad daylight, on my lawn, touching my things. You think you can steal from me? I roared, slamming another fist into his cheek. This is my house. Another punch. Then another. The movers just stood there, like statues. Not one of them tried to stop me. Maybe they thought this was above their pay grade. I grabbed the guy's shirt with one hand, dragged him up halfway, and with the other hand fumbled out my phone. I was breathing hard, heart jackhammering. There's a robbery at my house. I told the 911 dispatcher. I've got one of them subdued. Send cops now. I spat out my address and hung up. That's when I heard her voice. Eric, what are you doing? Get off him. Marissa. She was running toward me, Clipboard forgotten, eyes wide in alarm. She shoved me, and for a second, I actually lost my grip on him. She dropped to her knees beside him like some protective guardian angel, her hands trembling as she wiped blood from his nose with her sleeve. She looked at him like, I don't even know, tenderness, worry, and that's when it hit me. I backed up a step, still catching my breath. Do you know this jerk? I asked, even though every bone in my body already knew the answer. I just needed her to say it. She looked up at me. No guilt, no shame, just cold irritation. Like I was the inconvenience here. Yes, she said, her voice like ice. This is Jonas. He's my boyfriend. I swear, everything around me went silent. Time slowed. My ears rang like I'd just stepped away from a live transformer. 17 years, nearly half my damn life. And this is how I find out. I didn't think. Didn't pause. My foot connected with Jonas's ribs so hard it knocked the wind out of him. He curled up, groaning. I kicked him again, this time right on target. He let out this high-pitched wheeze, something between a gasp and a squeal that would have been hilarious if I wasn't standing in the wreckage of my life. If it weren't this situation, if he weren't that guy, I might have laughed. You're my wife, I shouted, turning on Marissa. Rage and disbelief twisted in my chest like a knot of wires shorting out. And you're moving our stuff out with your boyfriend. I threw my arm toward the U-Haul, then looked back at her. My voice cracked with disbelief. What the hell is this? You're just leaving? Taking half her stuff? Without even telling me. She stood up, brushing off her knees like she'd just been gardening instead of kneeling beside the man who shattered everything. Calm. Cold. I was going to call you after, she said. After. I didn't want a scene. Like this was just some minor hiccup. Like she wasn't lighting our entire life on fire and watching it burn. My mouth opened, but before I could even begin to wrap my head around her nerve, the flashing red and blue lights rolled down the street. 2 cruisers. Sirens off, but lights spinning. Neighbors were already gathering, porch doors creaked open. People in slippers and lawn chairs just watching the mess like it was cable TV. A big cop stepped out and immediately moved between me and Jonas, who was still groaning on the grass. What's going on here? He asked, hand hovering near his holster. I tried to steady my breathing. My fists were still clenched. I'm the homeowner, I said, forcing the words through grit teeth. I got a call from my neighbor that people were loading my furniture into a truck. I came home and found this guy. I jerked my chin toward Jonas, directing the movers. My wife apparently decided to leave me and take half our stuff without telling me. The cop turned to Marissa. Ma'am, is this your husband? She gave a stiff nod, jaw tight, still glaring at me like I was the one causing the problem. And you're removing items from the house. I'm taking my half, she said, arms crossed, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. The officer let out a long sigh and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Ma'am, you can't just take things from the marital home without a court order. Until a judge divides the assets, you can't legally remove furniture or major possessions. Her face shifted, for the first time, from smug to stunned. What? That's ridiculous. Half of this stuff is mine. Maybe so, he said, keeping his voice calm. But you need legal documentation before you start dividing property. What you're doing right now could technically be considered theft. Her mouth dropped open. Theft? It's my stuff too. The law doesn't work that way, ma'am. The cop said, patient but firm. You need to go through proper legal channels. Behind him, the second officer was helping Jonas to his feet. The guy's face was already ballooning, his chin a mess of blood. He looked at me with nothing but pure hatred, but wisely kept his mouth shut. Marissa, meanwhile, looked like she was coming apart at the seams. So what am I supposed to do? She snapped. You can take your personal effects, the officer said. Clothes, toiletries, items that are clearly yours alone. But furniture, electronics, anything that could be considered jointly owned stays until the courts decide otherwise. Marissa looked at the truck, then at the officer, then at me, and I swear for a second I thought she was going to scream. She looked like she was about to explode. I can't believe this. Jonas finally croaked, his voice all twisted and nasal from the busted nose I gave him. Baby, let's just go, he said, reaching for Marissa like this was some bad date gone wrong. We'll figure it out later, baby. Baby. I saw red all over again. My hands curled into fists, and I lunged. But the cop was quicker. He stepped in front of me and grabbed my shoulder hard. That's enough, he said firmly, eyes locked on mine. One more move like that, and you're in cuffs too. I stopped, chest heaving, every muscle in my body screaming to do more. But I backed off, jaw clenched so tight I thought my teeth might crack. My vision was still swimming in red. The cops turned to the movers, who were still standing off to the side. Arms crossed like this was the best free entertainment they'd seen all week. You guys need to unload everything you've already put in the truck. Now, One of them shrugged like it wasn't his first family meltdown and started hauling the furniture back into the house. The others followed. Marissa hissed as she stomped past me toward the bedroom. This isn't over. I couldn't help myself. I barked after her. Oh, it's just getting started. After the cops left, one stayed behind just to make sure everything was returned, and Marissa only took what was legally hers. I collapsed into the living room chair, body buzzing with adrenaline and pain. I couldn't even think. Everything looked off. Crooked. Furniture at weird angles from being hauled out and shoved back in. The carpet was stained with little drops of blood where Jonas's face had met my fist. My knuckles were raw and swelling. My hand throbbed in time with my heartbeat. And my wedding ring. God, it felt like it was searing through my skin. I yanked it off and threw it on the coffee table like it had betrayed me. I was still sitting there, just staring at nothing, when I heard the front door open. Zara. Backpack over one shoulder, shoes squeaking against the floor. She stopped short the second she saw me. Dad, why are you home? Then her eyes scanned the room. The disarray. The crooked coffee table. The TV stand sitting just a few inches too far to the left. The couch slightly twisted from being moved. Her gaze landed on the blood. She looked back at me. What happened? I patted the cushion next to me. Sit down, kiddo. We need to talk. She hesitated, eyes darting around the room, then sat down slowly beside me. Her back was stiff, her knees tight together. Is everything okay? She asked, voice small. I took a deep breath. There was no good way to say it. Your mom left today? I said. She's seeing someone else. I braced for a reaction. Tears. Confusion. A storm of questions. But instead, Zara just gave a small nod. Like she'd been waiting for me to catch up. Oh, she said. You mean Jonas? My stomach dropped. All the air rushed out of my lungs. You knew about him? I asked, voice cracking with disbelief. She started picking at her nails, eyes on the floor. Yeah, Mom told me a while ago. How long? I asked, though I could barely hear my own voice. It sounded like someone else talking. She shrugged. Like 6 months, maybe. 6 months. She said he's her soulmate, Zara added, still not meeting my eyes. That they were meant to be together, but life got in the way. He had to move to Europe for work right after college, and they lost touch. She said she only married you because you were stable and would be a good provider. Those words came out of Zara's mouth like she was reading a line from a book. No emotion. No hesitation. I blinked. My throat went dry. My hands curled into fists again, not in anger this time, just helplessness. So I was just a backup plan. I asked slowly. Just an ATM machine. Zara gave another shrug like none of this was new to her. She said you were a good choice. Reliable. Nice. But she never really loved you the way she loved Jonas. It wasn't just the words. It was how she said it. Like she was commenting on the weather. As if my entire life hadn't just been ripped out from under me. As if she hadn't been complicit in keeping this secret from me all along. I could barely breathe. So, I started, trying to keep my voice even. If Jonas had never left for Europe, your mom would have married him instead. And you would have been his kid. Zara nodded, almost wistfully. That would have been better, right? My mouth opened, but nothing came out. I had to force the words past the lump in my throat. Yeah, I said quietly. That would have been perfect. Yeah, Zara repeated, with this dreamy little smile. Mom says they're soulmates. It would have been perfect. I looked away, pressing my tongue against the inside of my cheek just to stop from screaming. My jaw ached from clenching. Who else knows about this? I asked finally, voice low and tight. She didn't even pause. Grandma and Grandpa. I mean, Marissa's parents. Of course. They never really liked you anyway, she added, still casual, like she was reciting things she'd been told 100 times. My vision tunneled. She said they always thought Mom could do better. That was it. That was the final straw. 17 years. 17 goddamn years with those people. 17 Christmases. 17 birthdays. Thanksgiving dinners, family barbecues, graduation parties. Fixing their cars. Moving their furniture. Building a retirement deck with my own 2 hands. Giving, always giving. And they'd never liked me. I laughed. It wasn't a joyful sound. It came from somewhere cracked and hollow. Zara looked up finally. Dad, are you okay? I turned to her, gave her a smile I knew didn't touch my eyes. It wasn't real. Nothing felt real. I'm going to be just fine, I said. And in that moment, I meant it. Because I knew what I had to do. I was going to give them exactly what they wanted. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in the half-lit living room, watching shadows move across the walls. Thinking. Planning. By sunrise, I knew. First stop, Maurice. Maurice and I had history. Played football together back in high school. He was a divorce shark, now the kind of attorney you called when you wanted someone wrecked. I'd rewired his entire house for free last year. He'd told me then, you ever need anything, I got you. Well, I needed something. I didn't even make an appointment. Walked into his office like a man on fire. His secretary looked up, took one glance at my face, and didn't say a word, just got up and opened his door. Jesus, Eric, Maurice said as soon as I stepped in. You look like what the hell's going on. I sat down across from him, leaned forward, and told him everything. Every brutal, ugly detail. He didn't interrupt once. By the time I was done, his jaw was tight and his hands were already pulling out forms. I need this done fast, I told him. Emergency filing. Freeze everything. Every damn asset. She tried to empty the house already. She gets the minimum allowed by law, not a cent more. Maurice gave me a sharp nod. We'll file today. I'll file for the freeze, too. This is textbook, judge'll approve it fast. He paused, looked me over. What about custody? I let out a bitter laugh, short and mean. Let her have Zara. They deserve each other. Maurice raised an eyebrow. Let her have Zara, he repeated, but he didn't argue. Child support will still be required, he added. Fine, I said. Whatever the law requires until she's 18. But nothing extra. No college fund. No birthday checks. Not a dime more than what the court orders. After leaving Morris's office, I drove straight to the bank. I didn't call ahead. Didn't stop for coffee. I walked in with purpose, ID already in hand. I stepped up to the counter. The teller glanced at me, then down at her screen. Her name tag read Brenda. I need to withdraw from our joint account, I said, voice steady. All of it. Her eyes widened, and she typed something in. She blinked at the number on her screen. The entire amount, sir? I looked her dead in the eye. Actually leave $37. Brenda tilted her head slightly. That's a very specific amount. It's exactly what my wife has contributed to that account in the last year, I said. The rest came from my paychecks. I didn't wait for a reaction. I signed the slip, pocketed the receipt, and walked out of there feeling like I'd just taken back a piece of myself. Next, I called HR at my company. Spoke directly to the benefits coordinator. I need to update the beneficiaries on my 401k and life insurance, I told her. Remove Marissa. Replace her with my sister. I could hear the typing on the other end. We'll get the forms over to you today. I didn't stop there. I pulled out my phone and called every credit card company we had. Reported the cards lost. All of them. I need to deactivate the cards and issue replacements in my name only. Then came the joint subscriptions. Costco gone. Netflix canceled. Hulu terminated. Amazon Prime. Shut it down. Even our gym membership. I told them my wife was no longer on the family plan. One by one, I stripped her out of my life. Last, I called my mom. She answered on the third ring. Eric. I told her everything. From Jonas on my porch to Zara's dreamy praise of the guy to Marissa's smug confession. There was a long silence. Then she spoke, quiet and calm. I can't say I'm surprised. What? I asked, thrown off. That girl always had wandering eyes, she said. Even at your wedding. I closed my eyes. Why didn't you say something? Would you have listened? She asked gently. You were so in love. Besides, I didn't have proof. Just a feeling. Mothers know these things. We talked a little longer. I told her about my decision to give Marissa custody of Zara. Are you sure about that? She asked. Zara's still your daughter. Even if she's been difficult. I can't look at her right now, Mom. I said. Every time I see her face, all I can think about is how she knew and didn't tell me. How she was excited about it. How she wished some other guy was her dad. She's 16, Eric. Kids that age say stupid things. They don't understand consequences. Well, I said flatly, she's about to learn. But my mom wasn't finished. If you really feel you can't handle having Zara with you, she can stay with me until things settle down. But don't make any permanent decisions while you're angry. I agreed to think about it. Maybe she was right. But right then, I couldn't stand the idea of looking at Zara's face every day. Not when she'd been part of this lie. The next day, Marissa got served. Right at the salon where she worked. Stylist chair, scissors in hand, mid-appointment. The process server I hired, I paid extra for same-day service, said she turned white as a ghost when she realized what she was getting. Which was absolutely nothing. Our house was in my name. I'd bought it 2 years before Marissa and I ever got married. My truck? Company vehicle. Registered to the business, not to me personally. Her car had always been in her name, so she could keep that. No alimony, either, since we both worked full-time jobs and made about the same. The only thing she was getting was basic child support for Zara until she turned 18. Less than 2 years away. Her phone must have been overheating from how many times she called me that afternoon. Mine sure was. 10 calls straight to voicemail. The 11th rang out longer than the rest before I picked up. What is this? She screamed the second I answered. I didn't flinch. Divorce papers, I said, calm as ice. I thought that was obvious from all the legal language. You're trying to leave me with nothing, she shouted, voice cracking. That's not how this works, Eric. I get half of everything. I laughed. Couldn't help it. You get half of what we acquired together during the marriage. The house was mine before we got married. My 401k is protected because you have your own retirement account. We make the same salary, So there's no alimony. Your car's in your name. You're getting exactly what you're legally entitled to, which, by the way, is a hell of a lot more than you deserve after hooking up with some guy behind my back for months. This isn't over, she hissed. Good luck with that, I shot back. I've got texts from Zara confirming you've been cheating for at least 6 months. A police report from yesterday when you tried to rob the house. And I've got Maurice as my lawyer who, as you know, eats people like your bargain basement attorney for breakfast. Then came the crying. Full-blown crocodile tears. How am I supposed to start over with nothing, she sobbed. After 17 years together. Don't I deserve something for all that time? You got Jonas, I said flatly. Your soulmate, right? The guy you should have been with all along. Well, now you can be together without me in the way. Isn't that what you wanted? I hung up before she could answer. 2 weeks later, we had our first court date. Maurice had filed for an expedited hearing, and the judge had agreed thanks to the evidence of her trying to clean out the house like a thief in the night. I showed up in my best suit. Clean-shaven, pressed shirt, hair combed, looking every bit the calm, competent, reasonable man. Maurice was already there, sleeves rolled, files organized, ready to rip throats. In the courtroom, he was a shark with blood in the water. Marissa walked in a few minutes later. Her lawyer, some young woman named Vanessa, trailed behind her, carrying a briefcase like it weighed more than she did. She looked like she might have graduated law school last week. And then there was Jonas, following them in, his face still slightly discolored from our introduction. They sat across the courtroom from me, Marissa, her fresh out of law school lawyer Vanessa, and Jonas with that faint bruise still painting his jaw. I could feel their eyes boring into me the entire time, trying to burn holes through my skin. I didn't flinch. I didn't look, but I felt it. Then Zara walked in, flanked by Marissa's parents. She didn't even glance my way. It was like I was some distant relative she didn't really know, some stranger who happened to share her last name. That stung more than I wanted to admit, but I kept my face stone cold. I couldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing how deep it cut. The judge got the proceedings underway quickly, and Marissa's lawyer came out swinging. Half the house. Spousal support. A share of my retirement. Maurice didn't blink. Cool as ice, he dismantled every argument like he'd done it 100 times before. Your Honor, the house was purchased by my client 2 years before the marriage, he said, sliding a copy of the deed across the bench. Retirement accounts are separate by law, and given both parties earn comparable incomes, spousal support is unnecessary. The judge nodded along, already agreeing. Then Maurice went for the kill. He pulled out bank statements, payment logs, paycheck stubs, receipts, stacked like a fortress. My client has funded the joint account entirely for the past year, he said. Mrs. Thompson's contributions total $37. That is not grounds for equitable division. Marissa's face went red. Her lawyer tried to argue, but the judge cut her off. Receipts are clear. Mr. Thompson retains the account. Then we hit the real heart of it, custody. Marissa didn't want it. She stood there, eyes dry and voice flat, and told the court she was moving in with her boyfriend and didn't want to uproot Zara during her senior year. Just like that. No emotion. No fight. Just handing off her own kid like she was pawning a piece of furniture. Zara's eyes widened in shock. Clearly, she hadn't seen that coming. Maurice leaned in and quietly suggested we propose Zara staying with Marissa's parents. Better than her bouncing between houses, he murmured. Especially if Marissa's not stepping up. The judge agreed. Temporary custody to the maternal grandparents. Joint financial support split between Marissa and me. Signed, stamped, official. As we left the courtroom, I heard Zara call after me. Dad. I stopped and turned. She looked smaller than usual. Not the confident teenager who'd looked me in the eye and told me her mom's affair was perfect. No, this Zara looked like a child, tear-streaked and trembling. Why don't you want me to live with you? She asked, her voice cracking. You hate me now. Something in me shifted for a moment. I looked at her, really looked at her. My daughter. My little girl, who once thought I hung the moon. But the pain was still too fresh. Too raw. I don't hate you, Zara, I said quietly. But I can't look at you right now without remembering how you kept your mother's affair a secret. How you told me it would have been perfect if Jonas had been your father instead of me. I didn't mean it, she cried. I was just repeating what Mom said. That's the problem, I replied. You believed her. You went along with it. You picked a side. And it wasn't mine. Her grandmother stepped in then, wrapping an arm around her. Come on, sweetheart. Let's go home. Zara kept her eyes on me as they led her away, still crying. And for a split second, I almost called her back. Almost. But I didn't. Maurice laid a hand on my shoulder. That was rough, he said quietly. You okay? No, I answered truthfully. But I will be. The next few weeks passed in a blur. I threw myself into work, picking up every overtime shift they'd give me. Anything to keep my hands busy, my mind off everything else. When I wasn't working, I was looking for a new place to live. I couldn't stand being in that house anymore. Every wall, every drawer, every dent in the floorboards whispered reminders of a life that turned out to be a lie. The laughter, the holidays, the late-night talks with Marissa, all of it poisoned now. So I found a decent apartment, nothing fancy but solid, about 10 minutes from work. 2 bedrooms. One for me, one just in case. Just in case Zara ever wanted to come back. Just in case I could eventually look at her without seeing betrayal. I wasn't ready to write her off completely. Despite everything, she was still my kid. Marissa tried calling me a few times. I let every call ring out to voicemail. Her messages were like mood swings on speed, raging threats, then sobbing apologies, then cold logistical messages about who got the blender or the patio furniture. I only replied to the ones that were practical, and only through text. No emotion, no small talk. About 3 weeks after the court hearing, my phone rang again. This time, it was Celia, Zara's grandmother, Marissa's mom. "Eric, it's about Zara," she said, her voice tight. My gut dropped. I stood up straight. "What's wrong? Is she sick?" "Not physically," she said. "But she's hardly eating. She barely sleeps. Her grades are dropping fast. She's devastated, Eric." I let out a sigh and rubbed my temple. Celia, she knew about the affair for months. She looked me in the eye and said she wished another man had been her father. What the hell am I supposed to do with that? There was a long pause. "Did you know," Celia finally said, "that Marissa told Zara she'd send her to boarding school if she ever told you about Jonas?" I sat down hard on the edge of my bed. "What?" "She threatened her," Celia continued. "Said if Zara ruined things, she'd make sure she regretted it. That girl was trapped between her parents, Eric. She made a mistake, yes, but she was manipulated by her mother." I stared at the floor, heart pounding. I'd been so wrapped in my own hurt, I hadn't considered Zara might have been coerced into silence. That maybe she didn't choose a side, maybe she just got stuck. "Would you be willing to talk to her?" Celia asked gently. "Really talk? I think she needs to hear from you that you don't hate her." "I'll come by tomorrow," I said quietly. "After work." The next day, I drove over after my shift. The house looked the same as always, quiet, neat, welcoming. Zara was sitting on the front porch, her knees pulled up to her chest. She looked awful, pale, with dark circles under her eyes. Her hair was tied back in a messy ponytail, the kind of thing she'd never have allowed a month ago. She used to spend 20 minutes straightening it every morning. Now she just looked tired. Hello. When she saw me, she stood up slowly, her posture uncertain. "Defensive. Your grandmother called me," I said as I walked up. "Said you're not doing great." She shrugged, looking down at her shoes. "I'm fine." I sat down on the porch steps and patted the spot beside me. After a long second, she sat too, her arms wrapped around herself like she was holding something broken inside. "Grandma told me," I said softly, "about what your mom said. About keeping the Jonas thing a secret." Zara tensed immediately beside me, like I'd flicked a switch. She said she'd send me away," Zara whispered, her voice cracking. "That I'd never see my friends again. That it would be my fault her happiness was ruined." I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, trying to push down the fresh wave of anger that flared every time Marissa's name crossed my mind. "Why didn't you tell me that in court?" I asked, keeping my voice level. "Or before?" Zara's voice dropped to a low tone. I was scared and ashamed. I knew it was wrong, what Mom was doing, but I didn't know what to do. We sat in silence for a minute. There was nothing left to argue about, not with that much pain between us. "I never really wished Jonas was my dad," she said finally, not meeting my eyes. "Not really. Mom kept telling me how perfect he was, how happy they were going to be. I guess I wanted to believe her, that there was this perfect life waiting for us." I let out a long sigh. "Life isn't perfect, kiddo. There's no such thing as soulmates or fairy tale endings. There's just people trying their best, sometimes failing, sometimes succeeding." She nodded slowly, wiping her eyes with the sleeve of her hoodie. "I know that now." Another pause. Then, in a voice so soft I barely caught it, she said, "I miss you, Dad." Something inside me loosened, just a little crack, just enough light to get in. I reached out and put my arm around her shoulders. "I miss you too, Zara." She leaned into me, and just like that, the wall between us crumbled. She started sobbing, full body shakes, gasping breaths. I held her close, rubbing her back, feeling my own eyes sting. "I'm sorry," she kept repeating through the tears. "I'm so sorry." "I know," I whispered. "I know you are." When the storm finally passed, and her breathing evened out, I pulled back slightly and looked at her. "How would you feel about coming to see my new apartment this weekend?" I asked. "It's nothing fancy, but I've got a room set up for you, if you want it." She looked up, eyes still wet, but now there was something else behind them, hope. Really, I nodded. "We've got a lot to work through, Zara, and it won't all happen overnight. But you're my daughter. That hasn't changed. She threw her arms around me and hugged me so tight it actually hurt. I'd like that, she whispered. I'd like that a lot. When I got up to leave, Celia met me at the door. She looked tired, but there was gratitude in her eyes. Thank you, she said softly. And I'm sorry. Bill and we should have said something when we found out what Marissa was doing. She's our daughter. We thought she'd come to her senses. I nodded. We all make mistakes trying to protect our kids. Then came the final divorce hearing. It felt more like a formality than anything else. The judge made the temporary orders permanent with only a few small changes. Zara would split her time between my apartment and her grandparents' place. She'd have the option to stay with Marissa on some weekends if she chose to. She didn't. Marissa showed up alone. No Jonas this time. She looked rough, lost weight, dark circles under her eyes. She barely said a word the whole time during the hearing. Just nodded when the judge asked if she understood the terms, like she was going through the motions without really being present. As I was heading to my truck in the courthouse parking lot, I heard her call out behind me. Eric, wait. I stopped, took a breath, steeling myself before turning around. What? She fumbled for words, her voice unsteady. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I looked at her, really looked at her, searching for any piece of the woman I'd built a life with for 17 years. But all I saw was a stranger in worn-out shoes and hollow eyes. A little late for that, isn't it? I said flatly. She looked down at her hands, twisting them nervously. Jonas left. I didn't say anything. He wasn't who I thought he was. I couldn't help it. I laughed sharp, bitter. You threw away our entire life together for a guy who bailed on you after a month. Classic. It wasn't like that, she snapped defensively. He was different than I remembered. Let me guess, I said. The fantasy didn't match the reality. She didn't respond, just looked away. I made a mistake, Eric. A terrible mistake. Yeah, I said. You did. Several, actually. She looked up then, eyes glassy, and I realized she'd been crying. Do you think? Is there any chance we could? No. I cut her off before she could finish. Not in this lifetime. She flinched. I didn't care. You didn't just cheat on me, Marissa. You lied to me for months. You manipulated and threatened our daughter. You tried to steal from me. You broke every promise you ever made to me. I shook my head. There's nothing left. I still love you, she whispered. I stared at her. No, you don't. You love the idea of me as a safety net. Now that your fantasy blew up in your face. She recoiled like I'd slapped her. That's not fair, she said weakly. None of this is fair, Marissa. Welcome to real life. I turned to walk away. He hit me, she blurted out. I stopped, but I didn't turn around. Jonas, she said. He had a temper. I never saw it before we moved in together. He'd get so angry over nothing. And one night, he just snapped. Despite everything, I felt a surge of anger rise in my chest. Nobody deserves that. Not even her. Did you report him? I asked, still facing away. Yeah, she said quietly. He's got a restraining order now. I finally turned around to look at her. Good. I'm glad you did that. At least, she said, trying to steady herself, I'm staying with my cousin right now. The salon cut my hours because I was a mess after everything. I could see where this was going. Financial help. A place to stay. Her old life back. But that ship had sailed, hit an iceberg, and sunk to the bottom of the ocean. I hope things get better for you. I said, and I meant it. But it wasn't my problem anymore. I walked away then, feeling lighter than I had in months. The divorce was final. The past was the past. It was time to focus on rebuilding my relationship with Zara and figuring out what the hell I wanted from the rest of my life. And it's amazing how much can change in half a year. I've been promoted at work, now running my own crew, installing electrical systems in new commercial buildings. The money's better. The hours are more regular. I actually get weekends off most of the time, which feels like winning the damn lottery. Zara moved in with me full-time about 2 months ago. No drama. No announcement. She just started spending more time at my place, and one day, she didn't go back. I didn't question it. She's doing better in school now, too. Talking about college, even. And dating some kid named Alex, who seems decent enough. I still give him the death stare when he picks her up, though fatherly duty and all. Zara and we've had some hard conversations. About trust. About family. About making mistakes, and what comes after. Sometimes it's rocky. Sometimes I catch her hesitating, like she's still afraid she'll say the wrong thing and lose me again. But we're getting there. She sees a therapist once a week. That's helped. Helped her untangle some of the guilt, the manipulation, the trauma of what Marissa put her through. Helped her start forgiving herself. Last weekend, while we were chopping vegetables for dinner, she asked me something. Do you ever miss her? I paused, knife in hand, thinking. I miss who I thought she was, I said. But that person never really existed. So no, not really. Zara nodded slowly, like that made sense. She keeps asking about you, she said. If you're seeing anyone. I couldn't help but chuckle. Tell her to worry about her own love life. Truth was, I had been seeing someone. Nothing serious, but promising. She's a project manager for one of the construction companies that hires my crew. We met on a job site. She called me out for using the wrong gauge wire. She was right, too. Specs had changed and nobody told me. She's smart. Doesn't take any bullshit. Makes me laugh. And she's nothing like Marissa in every way that matters. She's been divorced, too. She gets the baggage. The walls. The slow steps. We're not rushing it. She's met Zara a couple of times. Just casual dinners. Nothing formal. Zara likes her, which was a relief. Huge relief, actually. Marissa still tries to contact me now and then. Usually about practical stuff, tax documents, insurance questions for Zara. But sometimes, she tries to slip something personal in. A memory. A remember when. I ignore those. Keep it strictly business. There's no going back. And honestly, I don't want to. I ran into her parents at Zara's school concert last month. It was awkward at first, standing there near the folding chairs after the concert. But Bill surprised me. He walked up, cleared his throat, and stuck out his hand. You're a good father, Eric. Better than we gave you credit for. I took his hand and shook it. It wasn't quite an apology, not fully, but it was something. And it mattered. As for Jonas, I heard through the grapevine that he violated the restraining order. Ended up spending a month in county lockup. Can't say I'm broken up about it. A year ago, if you'd told me that my wife would leave me for another man and that my daughter would help hide it, I would have said that would destroy me completely. And honestly, for a while, it nearly did. But here I am, still standing. Stronger, maybe, than I've ever been. Life didn't just go on. It got better. Not in a movie montage kind of way, where everything gets tied up in a perfect little bow. But in the real way, the quiet, steady kind where your chest doesn't feel like it's caving in every time you walk through your own front door. The silence in my house used to scream. Now, it feels like peace. Zara and I were good. Real good. That didn't happen overnight. That took time. That took tears. That took some brutally honest conversations, where we both had to say things we weren't proud of. But we found our way back to each other. She's got this emotional maturity now that blows me away. The kind most adults don't even have. Told me the other night, while we were folding laundry of all things, that she wants to study psychology. Said she wants to help kids deal with the kind of crap we barely talk about in most families. That's your heart, right there. I told her, smiling across a pile of mismatched socks. And you've got a damn good one. Marissa? She's still out there. Still making Marissa choices. Last I heard, she was dating some guy from a car dealership. Wears too much cologne. Says bro unironically. Zara told me with an eye roll and a smirk. I didn't comment. I've got no energy left to police that dynamic. Zara meets up with her every few weeks for lunch or whatever. That's their lane now. I stay out of it. And me? I'm doing all right. Joanna moved in a little while ago. She's nothing like what I thought I needed, and somehow exactly what I do. We keep it simple. We laugh a lot. She makes Zara laugh too, which, honestly, earns her a gold star in my book. I sold the house. Finally. Wrapped up the paperwork. Handed over the keys. Walked away from all the ghosts that came with it. Even split the profits with Marissa. Not because I had to. Just because it felt cleaner. Easier. Call it a business transaction in the name of sanity. And I don't regret how I handled the divorce. Not for a second. You don't fight a forest fire with a squirt gun. When someone's torching your life, you grab the hose, call the fire department, and bulldoze the burnt leftovers. Clean slate. Zero apologies. If I could go back and change just one thing, it wouldn't be the divorce. Wouldn't be walking away from Marissa. Wouldn't even be how I handled the house or the finances. It would be Zara. I was angry, hurt, blindsided. And I took all that pain and turned it into a wall between us, cold and high and unfair. She was just a kid caught in the crossfire, and I shut her out because I didn't know what else to do with my rage. It took time. A lot of it. Time, apologies, uncomfortable conversations, and the willingness to sit in the pain instead of pushing it away. But we're good now. Better than good, actually. Zara challenges me. She calls me out when I'm wrong, doesn't let me coast on being the dad in the room. And man, she makes me proud in a way I can't even begin to explain without my throat tightening up and my eyes burning. Oh, and for anyone still wondering about Jonas, Marissa's supposed soulmate? Yeah, that guy spiraled. Fast. Turns out he was controlling, manipulative, paranoid. The whole greatest hits album of red flags. Zara told me the final straw was when things got physical. He crossed a line, and Marissa ended up in the hospital. Yeah, jail time, restraining order, the works. Karma's weird like that. Doesn't always show up when you want it to, but it rarely forgets. Do I feel bad? I don't know. I wouldn't wish abuse on anyone. But I also can't forget how Marissa played me. Lied to me. Gaslit me. Tried to erase me like I was some glitch in her made-up fairy tale. But here's the thing. That's on her. She built the bridge. She lit the match. She watched it fall with a front row seat and a glass of wine in her hand. And to the people who keep messaging me asking if Zara's really mine, stop. Just stop. Seriously. That girl is mine in every way that matters. And also DNA doesn't make a father. Showing up does. Every day. Through the mess. Through the silence. Through the broken glass and the rebuilding. That's what counts. Anyway, life's not a fairy tale. But I'm not stuck in a horror story anymore either. And if you're sitting in the wreckage of your own relationship right now wondering if there's a way out, there is. You walk. You rebuild. You protect your peace like it's sacred. Because it is. Catch you all on the flip. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.